You're watching Death Mentor, an assassin's survival guide. Today we're talking about controlling the battlefield. This is part 2 in our Song of Swords series, where we are talking about fighting style in Skyrim combat. Today we're going to be talking about the defensive attack, evasion, and movement. This video is a lot more tactical than part 1 was. Part 1 was really more about what constitutes an actual fighting style. What are the elements of that? We talked about offense, defense, spell protection, crowd control. Now we're going to talk about actual battlefield tactics when the melee starts. So this is where we're going to talk about how do we actually survive, how do we keep the advantage, how do we force our opponents into situations that favor us. And what we're looking at here is a fairly quick battle. It doesn't take long for this from start to finish, but we're going to slow it way down in the next section, and we're going to dissect this battle in detail based on the 3 elements that I outlined: defensive attack, evasion, and movement. Now we are going to be using elements from Song of Swords Part 1 here. We're using crowd control, certainly. We're relying on the protection of our armor. I'm not using any spell protection here. But I am using the same character that I used in that first one. So we are looking at a dual-wielding fighting style with a combination of a one-handed sword and a dagger. And just to be clear, I am also using a mod that allows me to block with that left hand. So let's analyze this battle. We're going to analyze it based on these 3 elements. Defensive attack, in other words, hit-and-run tactics. Evasion, mixing up our evasion, not just running away, and movement around the battlefield that is going to be designed to limit our exposure to flanking attacks. So let's talk to start with about the defensive attack. What I mean there is we are attacking constantly. However, at the close of an attack, we're trying to put ourselves in a better position for the next attack. We are focusing on attacking our opponent's shield arm because that impedes their attacking us back. And then we're also moving into our enemy's blind spots. So here at the beginning of the battle, I am being approached from 2 sides. My enemies are strung out, so I'm going to immediately start with a charging attack on one opponent. We're going to try to deal some damage to some opponents very quickly before we get into a situation where we're surrounded. Now, the name of the game here is we're always trying to avoid being completely surrounded. That is the objective here. So you notice defensive attack, I'm wailing away on the shield side and then spinning away. I'll do a tight circle and then back away. And as you'll notice in that last piece there, that last enemy, he tried to attack me. He ended up attacking a space where I was previously but had just spun out of. So here we're using crowd control with a shout to back away a couple of our opponents and deal some quick damage to the 2 that are sticking out. Now, as far as evasion goes, we don't want to just simply run away. We're going to turn tight circles around the enemies. We're going to use stealth rolls to get under their attacks, and then we're going to create meat shields by moving around opponents, putting them between us and other opponents. So here we do a quick bash on the shield and circle around to his blind side. By blind side, I mean his shield arm. This is one thing that you can take advantage of when you're facing opponents with a shield. If you're attacking from their shield side, they're constantly trying to turn into you to get their attacking arm into play. And if you're going around their right side, you can quite often avoid attacks that way. You may get a shield bash now and again, but if you're in close enough, you can tie their shields up. Now here we're evading by rolling underneath an attack using a stealth roll, and that puts me into a great position here where again I've strung out my enemies. They're almost in single file, but I can see them all in my field of vision. Stealth rolling away. We're mixing it up. We're constantly moving away from our opponents and then turning back to them so we can keep them all in our field of vision. Here I'm using a blocking dagger. We're going to block a couple of attacks, get some quick damage in. Hits to the shield, spinning away, turning around, so I've got him lined up again. Now in this case I am surrounded, one behind me. I'm going to turn into him, and I put a shot into his shield, and I'm going to loop around his shield side, so he can't get a shot in on me very effectively. It forces him to regroup and come at me again. So we're able to take one out there. Now, as far as movement goes, we don't want to just move blindly. We're going to lead our enemy around the battlefield, putting them where we want them to be. Now, generally, my cue for when it's time to move is when I've been flanked. So when I see enemies basically surrounding me on 3 sides, I know it's time to get out of there. And my options are, like here, I can either run away, putting distance between me and the enemy, or I can charge into the center and try to break through the center and out the other side. This particular case, evading to the left was not a good option for me. You'll notice I took 2 shots on the way out. If I had evaded to the right across their shield arms, I wouldn't have taken that damage. They would have been so busy trying to turn toward me to get their weapon arms into play that I probably would have been able to get some distance without taking any damage. Alright, so I've strung them out. They're all in my field of vision again. This guy's going to miss. Constantly moving, causing him to miss. Okay, I'm surrounded here, so I put one into this guy's shield, do a quick turn, and back out. Now I've got them all in my field of view again. I'm no longer surrounded. So in this case, I'm going to punch through and out the other side, banging away on the shields in close, engaging their shields so they can't bash, they can't hit. And then I circle around this guy's shield arm, and his buddy hits him instead of me. Now I'm backing out again, all in my field of view, stringing them out, single file whenever I can. And I'm constantly just using kind of this pattern of movement. Dagger comes up to block, and we're striking from that defensive position, slowly whittling away. Now here at this point, I'm dealing a little damage, backing him off. We're going to take one guy out here. He's been hit numerous times, so he's ready to go at any moment. He is done. Now we're going to use crowd control, unrelenting force to back one opponent off while we quickly finish off the other with a dual power attack. And now we are down to 1 remaining enemy. Now we're going to play with this guy a little bit. Try some evasion, rolling in behind him, getting a few shots in behind the shield. Now here we're going to move in, bashing away at the shield, kind of backs him off. And now we can prepare. We watch him come in, we drop to stealth mode, and when the time is right, we roll under his attack, around from behind, and there you go. I sure hope this helped. Remember, the elements are the defensive attack, evasion, and constant movement, trying to keep our enemies from flanking us. We want to charge the enemy, dealing damage quickly, stringing them out. We can attack their shield arms coming in from that blind side, and we can also turn in those tight circles using stealth rolls to get under their attacks. Just try to mix it up a little bit, and I highly recommend you practice these skills. It makes combat much more enjoyable, much more interesting, and you get some really great and sort of fun theatrical, cinematic kills this way. I hope you'd enjoyed it. Until next time, keep on fighting.